What's up, y'all? GoofyRhexxi here. Hope everybody is doing well. And like I said in my weekly headliner yesterday, I wanted to talk or make a video about Cosmic Crucible and prepping for Cosmic Crucible here. So today's video, I'm going to talk about some of the best options for teams that are out there, both defense and in offense. I'm also going to relate it to obviously the room buffs and talk about some of the teams that I'm going to be putting into specific rooms, and then also talk about maybe some teams that you want to avoid putting into those defensive rooms as well. We're going to be going through that here in this video. Now, I do want to preface this video by saying this: I am not going to recommend anyone build out any team specifically for Cosmic Crucible. That is not my intent here. You probably just want to go with what you already have available on your roster, and then over time you will get some better teams and you can probably put them on defense or offense. I think right now, based on where the patch is, it's all about building for your Scourge teams. So if you don't have something built out already, I don't want you to say, hey, I'm going to go build out this team now. I just ultimately want you to understand this is just based on what I have on my roster, some of the best options I'm going to talk about here. And then hopefully this kind of gives you an idea in regards to what to plan and where to put some of these teams. So hopefully it's going to be a helpful video for you. If you have any questions, of course, leave it in the comments, guys. But let's get into it right now. All right, so just as a quick reminder, just before we kind of pop into everything here, I wanted to actually pull this up first. The data mines from last week that came out that talked about the specific rooms and the room buffs here, right? So there are going to be 6 rooms that are going to be on defense, and these rooms are going to have their different buffs. So actually for 2 of the rooms, there's just going to be no buffs. So stage 1, stage 2, those 2 rooms are going to have no buffs, but for stage 3, and then as we move forward to stage 6, those 4 rooms are going to have some buffs. So for stage 3, we're going through this really quickly, and then we'll come back and dive in and talk about the teams in a second. But stage 3, defense reversal on all characters' turns, flip defense up, deflect, and evade on that character's allies. For room 4, slow down on all characters' turns. If that character has speed up, clear all positive effects and apply 2 turns of slow and trauma to that character. Cosmic Catastrophe for stage 5. All characters who passively revive return with 1 health on all characters' turns. Reduce speed bar by 50% for that character's cosmic allies. And then stage 6, time dampening. All speed bar increases and decreases have no effect for all characters. And there's also this global buff here as well. Defended characters gain plus 20% health and plus 10% damage. And then we'll talk about these victory points as we go throughout the video. But let's talk about specific teams, right? So I started putting together my teams already. Now, some of this may change as I kind of start to think a little bit more about it. I've only spent maybe like 2 or so hours, kind of hour and a half or so, sort of thinking about this right now. I'm going to take a step away from it probably after this video and then think about it a little bit more and then kind of jump back to it here. But these are going to be, let's talk about my defensive teams first, and then we'll talk about my offensive team. So for defense, I'm going to be going with Infinity Watch. I just think that they're going to be a good team where it's going to take a lot for you to kind of burst them down, right? And there's an efficiency rating in some of these matchups. So for a team like this, where you have 3 characters that revive, there's some death proof, there's some drains that are there, there's evades. I mean, there's a lot of things that they do take, and you're gonna have to kill these three characters here twice. For me personally, I kind of just like the idea of throwing them on defense, because at least from an efficiency standpoint, it's going to take a little while for you to beat them, and they're also still a formidable team that will require a good counter. So therefore, I think Infinity Watch definitely stands out as one of those teams to use. The next team on my list here is going to be Axemen. I think Axemen are probably a really good option as well. Now, I took out Kitty Pryde and I threw in Phoenix. I'm not sure if this is a good idea yet, but I think that overall, Kitty Pryde doesn't really do a lot outside of raids. So I feel like Phoenix is going to supply a little bit more value here, right? I've seen this on defense and war quite a few times. So I think that this is actually going to be pretty good. She does have some synergy here with Beast. Obviously, she revives now. This may potentially pull a Kestrel team. So if that happens, then it's a win-win in my book. If that's something that does happen here. So I do kind of like this quite a bit. And Jubilee, of course, it can provide some solid buffs for the team here. Speed bar reduction. I like Bishop's damage. So I think overall, I wouldn't want to use them on offense because they do kind of take a little while to sort of kill some enemies here. I think it's going to be more beneficial for me to throw this team on defense, especially considering that you have to kill Phoenix and Dark Phoenix, and of course you're gonna have to deal with Beast. There's a lot of things to pay attention to here, which I think may lead to them actually being a good defensive team. Web Warriors, I mean, they're just there honestly for the RNG mechanic of evades, right? Like if they evade, cool, and they may prolong the matchup. They may kill a character or two, right? Or like, cool, like I'm 100% okay with that. They can be dangerous. That's really kind of the reason why they're on defense. My symbiotes, I just don't have any place to use them from an offensive standpoint. So I just feel like they were built up before when we were doing Doom 1 raids. So I'm kind of like, well, I'm going to use them as an option here for defense as well. Maybe they'll pull a big team. Maybe someone will make a mistake against them. I do have a pretty big scream. Maybe if she kills a character by accident that they weren't paying attention to, and the bleeds can kind of pile up. So I'm kind of just using this as maybe like a bait team, I guess, that sort of kind of just takes down, that can be a little bit annoying to kind of punish and try to get through. So therefore, that's the reason why I kind of have them there. And then Young Avengers, this is a no-brainer for me, although I could find a reason to use them on offense, to be fair. Like if there's Infinity Watch teams on defense, this team can beat Infinity Watch, so therefore it would be kind of nice to keep them. And depending on the size of the Eternals, I could probably also create some problems there as well. But I just feel like this team just has so much built in, and they have they have a lot of sustain, but then they also have they have like phases of burst damage too, right? Like there's small phases of burst damage where they can kind of mow you down a little bit as well. They're hard to kill. So therefore I just think, yeah, there's a better good serve team for me on defense. And then last team that I'm going to throw on defense here is going to be sort of like this mishmash comp. So I use this a lot on war defense right now, where I have Yo-Yo, there's Shuri. Shuri's better now outside of raids, right? With the fact that she can give that deflect when an ally drops below 50%. She can do that outside of raids now, so that makes her a better character. She has a higher health here, so good health pool that she can provide some good healing. She can also give that ability energy, right? Not just the defense up, but also the ability energy. So she can give ability energy to Doom on turn 1. I mean, we can kind of get some things on and popping here. Ak is just here for some additional sustain. Yo-Yo is there to throw some offense downs, just to, if hopefully she can land them with Focus might be an issue, but hopefully she can land some of those offense downs, which will help to sustain the rest of the team. And honestly, Black Bolt's just there for the burp factor, just to be able to also provide some assist mechanics to Yo-Yo with the basic ability to be able to clear some positive effects. But this team is really about Doom and making sure that Doom can stay alive, and then Doom can pop off with his ult. That's essentially what this team is there for. Now, offensively, let's talk about that really quickly, and then we're talking about defensive rooms, right? So offensively, this is what I'm going to be going with. I'm sort of kind of like trying to trim things down a little bit here, and I realize that I may be crippling myself offensively, so I may have to go back and look at a few things here. But I'm going to use Shang-Chi here with Secret Avengers Kestrel. Honestly, I'm just looking to be able to kind of mow some teams down pretty quickly, right? I'm just looking for like just being able to get in there, attack, and just do some punishing damage and get through that really fast. That's ultimately the reason why I have Secret Avengers here. Then I sort of kind of put this team together. They're ordered by power level. I sort of kind of put this team together just based on what was left over from a New Warriors perspective. So I know that these three characters can work well together if the situation is right. I feel like there are going to be some matchups where I'm actually going to be able to use this team to do some good stuff here. I usually run Emma with this team for war offense, but I decided to go and throw Emma somewhere else and use her with Eternals, which we'll talk about later. And then Nick Fury, I'm hoping Nick Fury's going to be better in my hands. I actually thought about using Nick Fury with this mishmash team here. But I would have to take out Yo-Yo because on turn 1, he's going to ult, and then he's going to prevent Yo-Yo from throwing offense downs. So that's going to be pretty annoying. And I'm like, okay, well, I can still use Nick Fury, but then I'm like, okay, and take out Yo-Yo. But I'm like, okay, but he still does the turn 1 ult and summons as opposed to doing his speed up on turn 1 with his special, right? So for me, I'm just like, no, I'll rather have Nick Fury in my hands, where if I use him with this team, he can use a special, he can give them speed up. That can, lead to Cloak being able to go a little bit faster here. Then I want Surfer in my hands too, because I want the ability block. I want that control there. So I think this team can provide some solid value. So that's the reason why I'm going with them. And then Darkhold, I just want to be able to have one of these teams, right? Whether it's Infinity Watch or it was a debate between, do I want to have Infinity Watch on offense, or do I want to have Darkhold on offense? Okay, and then whichever one I chose to be on offense, the other one was going to go on defense, right? So that's essentially what this was. Darkhold is a better team. They're the current meta right now. They can beat a lot of teams, so therefore we're going to use Darkhold on offense. That's as simple as that, right? There's not much else to be said there. Then Weapon X, great team, gonna be better in my hands, being able to use them as opposed to the AI, trusting that the AI is gonna do well so that they can get a defensive win. No, this team's gonna be much better in my hands, so therefore I'm using them here. This right here, Eternals, Speed Eternals comp. Essentially, I'm just using this. I'm probably gonna be using this against other Eternals. This may switch up a little bit. There may be a situation where I want to take out Cable and maybe I want to throw in Zemo, or yeah, that's probably the scenario that I may look at there, where I may want to swap out Zemo and swap out Cable and put in Zemo. It's really going to ultimately depend on what matchups I'm seeing. But obviously, this is really about the Eternals. Loki and Emma are really here to make sure that my Cersei goes first, that my Icarus goes first. That's ultimately what that's there for. Then we have this team here, which is my Zemo X Factor team. I still feel like there's going to be some matchups where I'm going to be able to use this team offensively. So and really this is about Zemo kind of on turn one doing some damage here, getting the ability block out. I feel like there's going to be some instances where I'm definitely going to be able to use this team on some lower level matchups, but that's the reason why they're there. And then we have basically kind of just some cleanup teams here. So like Black Order, which we could throw on defense. Like if I'm worried about having enough offensive teams, I probably could throw my Black Order team on defense. I don't have a whale Black Order team. I just never really invested that heavily into them. I got Ebony Maw late. I got Cole extremely late. So I never really invested too heavily into this team. So that's the reason why they're kind of small. And I just don't think that they're going to do that well with Cosmic Crucible. But they may be able to get me a win or two, or maybe clean up. Same thing here with Dark Hunters. They might be a nice little cleanup team. Maybe I use them against a Web Warriors team, depending on what the size of that team. And then same thing with Shadowland as well. That's kind of my idea when it comes to sort of what to use here in regards to sort of Cosmic Crucible. So those are my offensive teams. Like I said, there probably is going to be some tweaking to my offensive teams. I do think I'm a little too slim there, and I may want to take some teams off defense and then use them on offense instead, or switch it up. There are some other characters too that I don't have on teams, like the Star-Lord T'Challa, and I'm also thinking that I probably can use in an offensive setting depending on what the matchup is as well. So we're probably going to revisit that at some point in time, but we'll see as we move forward. Right now, this, based on what I have, this is kind of the best of my roster, kind of, sort of. So that's basically what I've kind of done with this here. Now, all right, sorry guys, I had to take a quick call, but jumping back into this here, wanted to talk about, since we talked about all the teams already, let's talk about now the individual rooms and recommendations for what you probably want to put on defense and what you should avoid. I'll also talk about what I'm going to throw in each one of these individual rooms as well. But jumping back to the data mines here, as we mentioned, all of these stages are individual rooms. There's 6 teams that you're going to put on defense. The first 2 rooms are going to have no rules. So you want to start paying attention to stage 3 through 6 in regards to what teams you're throwing into these rooms. Also keep in mind that for each one of these rooms, it doesn't just affect the reason why I'm talking about this is because it doesn't just affect the offensive team, the team that's going to attack your defensive teams. It also affects your defensive team as well. So you do want to keep that in mind when you are placing teams in these individual rooms. So first and foremost, let's start off with stage 3, right? So stage 3, which is room 3, is defensive reversal. On all characters' turns, flip defense up, deflect and evade on that character's ally. So what I was thinking about here is throwing Infinity Watch into this room, and the reason why is because they're going to spawn with Safeguard, right? So when they spawn with Safeguard, they're going to be immune to this defense up, deflect, and then also the evade flip at least for 2 turns. Now, after 2 turns, they're definitely going to be susceptible to that, so that's going to kind of suck. But we're hoping that, right, that they would have been able to do enough damage to kind of sustain that a little bit, and that those flipping of these positive effects won't negatively impact them too much. So that's kind of what we're hoping for here. Now, teams that you probably want to avoid putting in this room, I wouldn't put your Young Avengers here. Literally, they gain every single one of these positive effects. Defense up on spawn from Echo's passive. You have deflect that Miss Marvel gets from her basic ability. You want to avoid that at all costs, right? So you don't want that to be flipped. And then evade, they also gain evade too, because Echo does spend out her special ability applies evade to all Young Avenger allies as well. So you definitely want to avoid that at all costs. Now, alternatively, if you want to throw a team in here that probably counters a team like Secret Avengers, so not Young Avengers, but Secret Avengers, the Secret Avengers, because of Captain Sam, they're going to get the deflect and the Maria Hill. They're also going to get defense up as well. Maybe not, I don't remember anybody getting evade, but if you want to throw a team, let's say like maybe a Phoenix X-Men comp, that probably could work here, because you wouldn't be able to use Secret Avengers to counter it as effectively. But of course, there is going to be some, I mean, X-Men also do have some of these positive effects that are there, but if you don't really care about losing your X-Men team, or you just kind of want to prolong a matchup and help you to kind of go towards that efficiency rating, that's actually not a bad team to throw there, because yes, Kestrel will counter Phoenix, that's cool, but there's also some other aspects to worry about and be concerned about as well, and maybe efficiency will go well. But yeah, I think defensively, I'm just gonna go with Infinity Watch here, because just to kind of avoid some of that stuff. Now for stage 4, this is a slowdown room. On all characters' turns, if that character has speed up, clear all positive effects and apply 2 turns of slow and trauma to that character. So I was actually going to throw my Young Avengers here, because I'm not worried about the speed up or that team, but they can counter a couple teams that will counter them, that will benefit or that will be negatively impacted by the speed up, and of course then the slow and the trauma. So Young Avengers, there's no one on the team that applies speed up outside of War. In War, Kate Bishop does actually apply speed up with her ultimate, so that could be a problem if that was the case, if War buffs were, or with War whatever was activated here, but that's not the case. But a team that most players might be able, will probably want to use against Young Avengers, because they are a difficult team to counter, would be Eternals, right? So Eternals, they do gain speed up, and they also do gain a ton of positive effects, right? So speed up on them, if they have that speed up, which they get from their passives, being able to clear all those positive effects, apply 2 turns of slow and then trauma, that could be really impactful, right? Because there's a couple of debuffs that could really kind of slow the team down. So for instance, offense down from Squirrel Girl, you also have, damn it, offense down, there's blind. Kate Bishop can still blind outside of War defense. It's not as often, but she can still blind. There's some negative effects that could definitely be largely impactful against a team like Eternals. Also Weapon X too, right? So Weapon X, Omega Red does apply speed up to himself and also the entirety of the team with this passive ability. So be able to do the same thing again, right? Clear all positive effects, apply 2 turns of slow, and apply that trauma could definitely be largely impactful against a team like Weapon X. So definitely I would say as well, this is a pretty good comp to kind of throw in there, is if you want to kind of stall some Eternals matchups, or stall people from using Eternals, or stall people from using Weapon X against your Young Avengers and have to use some other counters, then this Young Avengers going into stage 4 probably not a bad idea. Now stage 5 or room 5, Cosmic Catastrophe. All characters who passively revive return with 1 health. Oof. God, stay away from anything that is Dormammu or Infinity Watch in this room. On all characters' turns, reduce speed bar by 50% for that character's cosmic allies. Once again, stay away from anything that is Infinity Watch, that is any team that revives Dormammu teams. Stay away from that at all costs here in stage 5 whatsoever. Now, what I was thinking about actually throwing it in this room, and I'm not quite sure that I'm convinced about doing it yet though, is this team comp that I kind of put together. It's this Doom comp, right? So there are no cosmic allies here apart from Black Bolt. Now I thought about it, I'm like, do I want Black Bolt to take turns? And I'm like, I don't know if it's gonna be as impactful if he doesn't take a turn. So he's gonna get that speed bar reduction by 50%. But none of the other characters that are here, none of them revive, number one, and then number two, only one of them is a cosmic character, and ultimately Black Bolt can still be impactful with a burp. Black Bolt can also still be impactful with clear and positive effects once Yo-Yo gets to her basic and she's doing her basic attack. Then she can call her, and that will probably prolong the matchup long enough, right, for me to be able to then get Doom to kind of pop off here. So I kind of look at it where I'm just like, this could work. And the reason why I thought about this team is because I've seen people use Eternals against this. I've seen people use Infinity Watch against this. I've seen people use a lot of teams that have cosmic characters to try to counter it. And I'm like, I think this is probably the best direction for me to go in when it comes to this room. Now, I also thought about throwing Young Avengers in here as well. And I thought about Young Avengers, obviously, because of course, once again, like Eternals would definitely not do well in this room. So I thought about kind of throwing them there, but then I thought about America Chavez, and that would also reduce her speed bar by 50% for her. So she ultimately will never take a turn. I'm not sure if that's as impactful to the team or as negatively impactful to the Young Avengers as I'm thinking it would be. It probably isn't. But then the alternative is, then what would I put in stage 4, right? I couldn't put that Doom comp in stage 4 because a lot of those characters like Doc Ock, Doom, they gain speed up. So I don't want them to then lose all positive effects and then they'll get slow and then trauma on them. I figured, okay, well, stage 5, I'm probably going to be better off with that Doom comp, but anything here, man, it's just really going to be rough. Even to like try to put a team in there that's going to counter another team, like I don't really know how you can do this without probably, and maybe I'm not thinking that deeply about it. I do need to probably take a little bit more time and process it a little bit, but I just don't even think like even throwing a team on defense that could counter another team, like even you're going to have some cosmic character probably on that team at some point, right? Unless you just decide to go with just Web Warriors or Symbiotes or something like that, which ultimately you could do if that's the direction that you wanted to go in when it comes to this room. But keep in mind that if you put Symbiotes here, then AV would not be able to, whoever he revives, they'll just have 1 health. So actually, it's a passive revive. He passively revives. Yeah, so that's different. All right, and then stage 6 for me, you guys are kind of going through my thought process as I'm doing this here, but stage 6 for me was a little challenging. So time dampening, all speed bar increases and decreases have no effect for all characters. So immediately I think about like Cable, Doom, Loki, right, Eternals. Man, a lot of this stuff counters Eternals. Good God almighty. Stage 6, stage 5, and literally stage 4 is like Eternals counter city, right? Like literally it's everything that they do, it counters them completely. So it's kind of funny that we're kind of going through this here, but time dampening, all speed bar increases and decreases have no effect for all characters. So Eternals being able to speed bar reduce with their ults, it's not going to be effective here. So I that's something that I'm thinking about. I'm going to throw Web Warriors here, and yes, there's a speed bar in factor, right? So on if they do a dodge, then there's a speed bar increase that they can get. So this is going to negate that a little bit, but it's kind of one of those things where I'm like, all right, I just don't really know or have any other team that's here that I can probably throw into this room. So I'm just going to go with Web Warriors for now. Now I may change some of this stuff as we sort of move forward, but I'm just kind of going through my thought process right now and kind of giving you guys the idea that I'm thinking for some of these rooms. What am I missing? What am I missing, guys? I have so much thought process here that I'm going through right now. With this limited options available because there's really like 12 to 15 meta teams in Marvel Strike Force. So what really are the options that we have there? You got to put some things on defense, but then at the same time, you really want to be able to keep some offense. And I think a lot of people may do the option of I am just going to go top heavy with my offense and not really care about my defense because I really need to make sure that I have everything available to me on offense just in case I fail an attack and I need some cleanup teams, right? So I definitely can understand that where that is concerned. There are these also full clear bonuses that we didn't talk about. I'll turn my camera off for it. But like victory points, these are things that you're going to want to think about, right? You get extra points down here. Victory points are granted once you've defeated a stage, run out of attempts, or the trial has ended. Victory points are only used to break ties between two opponents who clear the same number of stages. The Living Tribunal will provide VP for the following factors: full clear, attempt bonus, knockouts, healthy characters, and then turn bonus. So these are kind of like some extra points that you can get here. So a full clear will give you 7,500 points. Attempt bonus will, you know, I guess if you the least attempts, that you can get some high scores here. You get some for knockouts. I guess this is how many characters you have healthy left after a matchup, and then turn bonus, right? So how many turns you took to kind of complete a matchup. These are some of the victory points that you can get by completing each individual stage. So those are some things to pay attention to, right? So that's the reason why some of the teams that I threw on defense, I was thinking about, okay, well, it might take multiple times for them to be able to beat these teams. So I kind of want to go in that route when it comes to efficiency. So let me know your guys' thoughts when it comes to some of this stuff here. I know I went through it kind of quick, but hopefully this was actually a helpful video for you. If you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments. I know I went through this probably really fast. Maybe we'll revisit this again as we sort of kind of go through. Oh, my camera's still off. As we go through some stuff, you know, go through some individual matchups here. Then we'll probably be able to report back and talk about a few other things. But want to hear what your guys' thoughts are. What are you thinking about throwing on defense? What are you thinking about throwing on offense? Things like that. We'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on it as well. But listen, appreciate you guys watching the video. Until next time, y'all be blessed. Y'all be safe. Bye.
I like where it's going, where this is going, like what you're doing.